there was a man named David, a hard-working man devoted to his family, always striving to do what was right. He had built his life brick by brick, sacrificing sleep, comfort, and even his own dreams to give his family the best. Then one day, everything came crashing down. A business deal he had poured everything into failed. His savings vanished overnight. He lost his home, his dignity, and soon after, his family began to fall apart under the weight of hardship. David tried everything, prayed, fasted, worked even harder, but the more he fought, the deeper he seemed to sink. He began to question God. Lord, why? Haven't I been faithful? Haven't I honored you? Silence. The heavens felt like brass, and every prayer seemed to echo back empty. The people who once called him a leader now whispered about his downfall. He was alone, broken, and bitter. One cold night, sitting in a park with nothing but his regrets, he met an old man who looked at him and said, "Son, do you know what happens when a farmer's crops are devoured by locusts?" David shook his head. The old man continued, "It looks like the end. The land is stripped, the fields are bare, and the farmer has nothing left. But do you know what God promises in times like these?" David looked up, desperate for an answer. God says, "I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten." Joel 2:25. It means that every loss, every heartbreak, every wasted year God doesn't just replace what was lost. He repays with increase. David stared at the man, the words sinking deep into his spirit. That night, something shifted in him. He stopped fighting in his own strength and surrendered to God's plan. He started seeing every setback as a setup for something greater. He remained faithful, even when the progress was slow. And then, slowly but surely, restoration began. Opportunities he had never imagined opened up. He started a business, one that flourished beyond anything he had before. Relationships that were broken were mended. His faith was no longer shaken, but strengthened. The very people who once pitied him now looked to him for wisdom. And in time, David understood God had restored more than what was lost. He had given him more than he ever thought possible. But here's the key. Restoration doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes God allows the process to stretch us, to mold us, to refine us. David had to endure the waiting season. He had to trust even when he couldn't see. And that's the part most of us struggle with. We want immediate restoration, but God is working on something bigger. Sometimes what looks like loss is actually a setup for a testimony. The greater the loss, the greater the comeback. The more painful the season, the more powerful the restoration. David realized that what he thought was his downfall was actually preparation for his destiny. His character grew, his faith deepened, and his perspective shifted. He no longer asked, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, he declared, "God, I trust you. I know you are restoring me." Joel 2:25-27 says, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the crawling locust, the consuming locust, and the chewing locust, my great army, which I sent among you. You shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never be put to shame. Then you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel. I am the Lord your God, and there is no other. My people shall never be put to shame." This is God's promise. Your pain, your losses, your broken years are not the end of your story. When God restores, He doesn't just give you back what was taken, He multiplies it. What looked like the end is just the beginning. Hold on, trust in Him, and watch as He turns your ashes into beauty, your sorrow into joy, and your loss into a testimony. Your best days are ahead, not behind. The locusts may have taken much, but they have not taken your destiny. And when God restores, you will stand in awe of His faithfulness. Keep believing. Your restoration is coming. And when it does, you won't just get back what you lost, you will receive double, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Because our God is not just a restorer, He is a rewarder of those who trust in Him.